Hey, Reality Two here about another episode of the Roundup series where I talk about multiple things in regards to the Second Amendment. I don't go into great detail, but rather at its big picture. It's series more attentive for those who maybe don't have a lot of time on their hands but still want to stay informed around the Second Amendment. Today on the Roundup, we're going to be talking about Oregon Ballot Measure 114, gun control in Washington State, gun control in New York, and a good bill out of North Carolina. Okay, we're going to get into all that right now. Okay, up first, we're going to be talking about Oregon Ballot Measure 114. Okay, this is a situation that I was talking about weekly for quite a while here on the Roundup. I stopped because there was just nothing happening, nothing worth talking about. So to back up a little bit, Oregon Ballot Measure 114 was on the ballot in Oregon. It was being presented as a magazine capacity limit at 10 rounds, magazine ban. But it was much more than that, including permit to purchase, which included, mandatory training requirements, right? Among other things, right? But this was extremely terrible. As bad as a magazine ban is alone, this was much more than that. This passed just barely, barely passed, okay? But it passed nonetheless. Anyway, this was not allowed to go into effect on the effective date. It was temporarily restrained by a judge and a state judge. And that is still what we're looking at, okay? So, as of this time, as far as I know, okay, I've done my best to keep an eye on this situation. As far as I know, Oregon Ballot Measure 114, it has still not been implemented. None of the measure, okay? Not the magazine ban, not the permit to purchase. None of it, as far as I know, has gone into effect yet in the state of Oregon. I mean, that's really the update I have, right? Some movement has happened in the case. Uh, but the bottom line is none of it has gone into effect yet, okay? And that's the bottom line. That's a good thing. So that's really the only update I have on Oregon Ballot Measure 114. Still not much of an update, but I figured I'd throw it in here because it's been a while, right? A couple, like, month and a half, 2 months at this point since I've talked about it. Yes, it's still a situation. Not much happening though. A little bit, but nothing major. It still hasn't gone into effect, which is good. So I'm going to move on to the next topic right now. Okay, so now we're talking about the state of Washington. Okay, my home state, where I live. I've made a video about this. I've talked about it on the Roundup. This is a state that was at one time a pretty good gun state, but is now looking to become California 2.0. All right. Last legislative session, they did in fact implement a standard capacity magazine ban at 10 rounds. Unfortunately, here in the state of Washington. And, this year they're looking to do even more. All right. So I did do a video on this. They introduced so many gun control bills this session. I don't have the exact number. I don't want to count all these, but it's like around 16 plus. It's a minimum of 16 gun control bills in the state of Washington. I think their goal was probably just to make it so incredibly confusing to the average person that nobody is gonna bother keeping an eye on everything. And that probably did apply to some people. Not me though. I've been keeping an eye on all these bills. Okay, I haven't been talking about them too much because I've been wanting to just see what gets narrowed down because obviously most of these are going to die. So I kind of wanted to just see what's going to die, what's going to grow legs. Okay, we're starting to see that picture, coming into focus now. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. real quick, I'm just going to run through a few things, okay? A few prominent talking points, okay? First of all, the repeal of state preemption laws, okay? That if they were, we have state preemption laws in Washington state. If those were to be repealed, that would basically mean every county, town, city would be able to implement their own gun laws, their own gun control throughout the state, which would be absolutely terrible. You basically wouldn't even be able to travel around this state with firearms anymore. There's only 8 states that don't have state preemption laws currently. That would be bad if they were to get repealed. I was very worried about that. That was actually the worst piece of legislation this session, in my opinion. I understand most people weren't worried about it. I was. That would be a big problem. However, it seems that may be dying. People, in the legislature, they're stopping, or they're not stopping, but their focus, their attention to that is receding. Right? There's not as much hype around that at this time, so it seems to possibly be dying. We can only hope. At this time, yeah, it does seem to be dying. The primary bill for that, however, is House Bill 1178. Okay, so be aware of it. It's probably dying, which is good. Okay, moving down the list. Senate Bill 5006. Okay, that basically is going to effectively, not actually, but effectively going to repeal state white flag laws and basically just replace them with red flag laws, which we already have. So basically just get rid of white flag laws, which that isn't going to affect as many of people in the state as some of these other bills, but it will affect some, not very many, but some, which is unfortunate. Anyway, that's probably going to pass. It really seems to, it's progressed further than any other bills so far. Unfortunately, probably going to pass. So be aware of it. Is what it is. Also, moving down the list, we got liability for FFLs. Okay, so this is terrible. I understand there's a lot of people out here who are thinking like, oh, I'm not in the FFL industry. This doesn't affect me. It does though, okay, because you need to buy your guns somewhere. You need to do business somewhere, right? You're going to need FFLs that are intact and in business. This would affect that, okay? So this bill does affect everybody, okay? The bill on this one is going to be Senate Bill 5078. Funny enough, that's actually the bill number from last session that went on to become our magazine ban. Not great. Anyway, that's that. Definitely be concerned about that. Be aware of it. Keep an eye on it. Senate Bill 5078. Okay, next up we have permit to purchase. Okay, as I said, Oregon Ballot Measure 114 had permit to purchase in there. This is the Washington State's, version, okay, of permit to purchase. Basically, you got to get a government permission slip to even buy a firearm. You already have to have one to carry one concealed in this state. You got to have one to even buy it now. So you got to get a background check to get a background check to get a background check. Come on now. Anyway, that's going to be House Bill 1143 is the leading bill on that issue. So again, keep it in mind, not good at all. Then this is the one that I think everybody is most concerned about. I wasn't most concerned about this, but obviously there's like a top 4 here that are all pretty much just as bad. I was most concerned about the repeal of state preemption laws, but I think most people are most concerned about this, which is going to be the assault weapons ban. Okay, yes, the state of Washington is trying to ban so-called assault weapons. The primary bill on that is going to be House Bill 1240. Okay, at this time, it seems that their top 2 focuses are the liability for FFLs and the permit to purchase. Then the the white flag law one, where they're getting rid of them, is already probably going to pass. They're focusing on permit to purchase and liability for FFLs. As far as the assault weapon ban goes, it's 50-50 at this point. They might just let it die, or they might grab it, push it through, ban them. We still got to see. In any case, still got to keep an eye on it. Still an issue. And I know that's most people's concern. Okay, so that's the quick update on Washington State gun control. This went way too long for a roundup segment. Anyway, so I'm going to move on, but that's a very quick, very brief update on the Washington gun control situation. Moving on. Okay, so now we're talking about New York. Of course we are. We always are. Okay, so this is going to be a new bill out of New York, S4911. Okay. Now, this bill obviously does not surprise me at all coming out of New York. The reason I talk about this, about New York gun control that's really extreme, is not because I'm surprised. Of course, New York's going to do all this. It's more to warn people in other gun control states that, hey, New York's doing it. Your state's probably going to try to do it as well. And that's mainly why I talk about this, okay? What this bill looks to do in New York is ban the sale of all firearms and ammunition at any state, on any state property, okay? So whether it's state, county, city property, can't sell firearms or ammunition there, is basically what this looks to do, okay? So New York, they've already got all these sensitive locations, all these other restrictions on where you can have firearms and whatnot. Now there's all these restrictions on where you can sell them. Okay, so as we see, New York is literally trying to make the entire state of New York a gun-free zone, which is directly in violation of the Bruen decision, which is obnoxious. But anyway, getting off on a little bit of a tangent there, the topic at hand is this new bill, which looks to ban the sale of firearms at any state property. Okay, that's in New York. Be aware of it, though, because all the top gun control states, California, New Jersey, the list goes on, are probably going to be trying to do something similar if this passes in New York, which it probably will, because we're talking about New York. So I just want to talk about that real quick. Be aware of it if you're in New York, but also if you're in one of the top gun control states, be aware of it. It's because, all these states seem to follow New York and California on gun control. So anyway, that's really all there is to say there. Going to move on. Last but not least, we're talking about North Carolina. All right. Last week I talked about a good bill out of Illinois. Okay. I didn't talk about it because it's going to pass. It isn't going to pass in Illinois. The reason I was talking about it is because I would like to see, a trend get started, along the lines of that. I thought it was a good idea. Now, this is the same situation, all right? So this is, what we're talking about today is a bill out of North Carolina looking to remove some gun control out of their state law. Okay, so the bill is going to be House Bill 50 in North Carolina. Basically, it looks to remove the permit that you have to get in order to buy a firearm, okay? So basically they have permit to purchase in North Carolina for handguns. I don't know if that's all guns or just handguns. I think it might just be handguns. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not really up on North Carolina state law, but anyway, basically looks to remove that permit requirement in order to purchase handguns in the state, which is all really good, right? I think that's a really good trend. I would like to see more states start to try to remove some gun control, right? Because we always see, we always judge it based on who's passing gun control. Those are the bad states. who isn't passing gun control. Those are good states. But why aren't any of these so-called good states, why aren't they getting rid of some of these bad gun control laws that are already on the books? They usually aren't, right? So I would like to see this become a trend and get some bad, get some gun control out of some states. So I think this is a good bill out of North Carolina. If you live in North Carolina, keep an eye on this. Try to get this passed. This would be really good step in the right direction. So really all there is to say on that, though. I just wanted to mention that. I think it's a good thing. So, it's going to be it for that. Well, this has been another episode of The Roundup. I hope you learned something you didn't know already. That's the point of this series. If you want to continue seeing episodes of this series, you can subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see on this channel, on the Roundups, or just in general. Anyway, that's all I have for this week, so I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye.